Hi friends and companions along this path of spiritual practice. I know that many of us are familiar with this one-sentence Zen Buddhist koan. Show me your face before your parents were born, or even before your grandparents were born, but show me your original face. That's the koan, but I want to tell you that it comes from case number 23 of the Mumunguan collection of koans, and there's a larger background context, a dramatic story of what happened in China with Dharma transmission, about how the leadership and authority is transmitted from one patriarch to the next patriarch. This goes back to a time when Chinese Zen Buddhism, Chan Buddhism, was still emerging and taking form and fragile. The fifth patriarch was old, and everyone was expecting that Dharma transmission was going to take place soon. It took place in the monastery and symbolized in the fifth patriarch passing over his robe and his bowl. Whoever received those sacred objects would be installed as the next sixth patriarch of Chan Buddhism. But as the old abbot looked across the monastery, he wasn't sure whom he was going to choose. In fact, there was rivalry, there was contest, there was even the threat of violence among rivaling factions within the monastery walls. The old monk decided that he would ask everyone to submit a poem demonstrating the depth of knowledge of the Dharma. No one suspected, though, that an illiterate monk who was assigned to the kitchen would ask a fellow monk to write a poem and then anonymously post it on the monastery wall. The fifth patriarch saw this anonymous posting on the wall, read the poem, and was startled. He had found the next patriarch of Chan Buddhism. The poem demonstrated far better than any other submissions that this anonymous monk understood the Dharma truly. The old monk made some investigations and quietly one night called Hui Ning into his room. And they talked, and at that meeting, the fifth patriarch handed his robe and bowl to Hui Ning. And then just as quickly, he warned Hui Ning to flee in the middle of the night, not to wait, for the senior monks would come up with a lie that maybe he had stolen these sacred objects. He had fooled the old master. But he warned Hui Ning to run away, lest the senior monks chase after him and do violence to him. Hui Ning departed in the middle of the night, and just as was predicted, the senior monks got wind of what had happened, and they quickly gave chase. Days passed, and not finding Hui Ning, some of them returned to the monastery. But there was one monk, Ming. Ming had been a military general, and he had become a monk to repent for the many deaths and the violence that he had caused. But Ming would not give up, and he continued to give chase into the mountains. And finally, he came upon Hui Ning. But seated there on the ground, and on the rock next to him, the robe and the bowl. Ming quickly rushed to take possession of these sacred objects when Huineng said to him, "The robe and the bowl were never meant to be taken by force, Brother Ming. But if you wish, there they are." At that, Ming began to tremble. And as he reached down to pick up the sacred objects, he found that he could not take hold of them. And with trembling in his arms and his heart, he turned to Huineng and said, "I thought I came here to take possession of Dharma transmission. But I see now that I came here to be taught by you. Will you teach me the true Dharma?" And it's right then and there that Huineng says to Ming, "Not thinking good, not thinking evil, at this very moment, show me your original face." And at that, Ming awakened. That's the dramatic story. And I've been thinking about that as our collective attention turns to the trial of Derek Chauvin in the murder of George Floyd. As our collective attention at this historical moment turns to the heart and the complexity of what this moment entails. Whoever this monk Ming may be, Ming is really all of us, and this koan is asking us to step into the heart of Ming. Ming, who is giving chase to justice, to what he thinks is right, but with passion and anger and jealousy in his heart. This historical moment, whatever side that you and I may be on, this historical moment of anger and resentment, of right and wrong, of criminality and of justice, this moment when there is so much at stake, this moment that is fraught with violence or the threat of violence that has been invested in our structures of power and privilege and oppression, but this moment when it is not difficult for us to step into the mind and heart of Ming. We're pursuing justice and what is right. And yet there's such anger and such trauma and such resentment and such confusion. It's in this very moment that those turning words are offered to us from Huineng. Not thinking good, not thinking evil, at this moment, show me your original face. Those are the turning words of this koan. That phrase, original face, is a distant cousin of that other phrase, original sin. In Christianity, original sin may be about disobedience, but I would venture that in Buddhism, original sin would more likely be about ignorance, our original ignorance. But the original sin of our nation, which is racism and white supremacy, about how we have ignored this original face of our history. And in this historical moment, whichever side, however right or wrong, the koan asks us to step into our original face. As Ming hears those turning words, something happens to him. His arms tremble. His heart trembles. Something happens to him to turn his mind and heart so that he finds his way into humility. He's moved to ask Hui Neng to teach him the Dharma, for no one can take possession of these sacred objects by force and violence, for they rightly belong to those who understand its teachings and who have taken vows to live into those sacred truths. Whatever happens to Ming, it moves him to let go of his pretensions so that he might find his way to claiming his original face. Friends, as we journey together into these days and weeks and months, this koan is saying that there's no way that we will find a response unless we, like Ming, can find our original face. So we step into this question as we continue with our spiritual practice.